Hello, hi, my name's Amber and welcome. Hello. Today I thought I would take a reference and paint from a reference. I don't do it a lot, but I thought I'd give it a try. You'll quickly find out it doesn't quite work out the way I'd hoped, but that's okay. It's a starting point, and that's sometimes what we need. Sometimes we don't know we need it, and sometimes we do. So I start off by taping my paper. I'm going to tape right to left, each side, and then I'm going to tape top to bottom. That's the way I always do it. I feel like it gives the best sort of seal, if you will. I am using a cheaper version of tape that I don't prefer, but I'm trying to get through it. My go-to tape is Holbein Soft from Blix. That's what I would highly suggest. It's reusable. It's so soft it doesn't tear. This stuff's not as reusable. It usually leaks no matter what. Not technically leaks a lot, just kind of bleeds out a little bit. It's not the best tape, so use good tape. So that being said, I'm going to draw out a horizon line. I'm going to keep things loose because, again, I'm not one to take every detail out of a reference and draw every bit of it. I'm not one to replicate colors exactly. I kind of like to take a baseline from a reference and kind of use it, but then change it to what works for me and what feels right too, right? As you work along, you'll notice things that maybe you aren't comfortable with, and you'll change your mind, and you can swap stuff out for different things, and that is perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be exactly what you see, right? You can just be inspired simply by what you're looking at. You can start off trying it. If it doesn't work out, you can pivot. I'm a big fan of pivoting. Pivot all the time in all sorts of things. So what I'm going to do, I was going to spray my paper, but then I decided I didn't want it that wet. So I'm just going to wet the top half where I drew the horizon line. The horizon line, in most things, you don't want to do it dead center. I think most of you probably know that, but so it's off a little bit. It doesn't really matter where. And so I'm just going to start dropping in the colors that I see in my reference that I think are close. Again, nothing has to be exact. It doesn't have to be. You could also not even use the colors in your reference photo. You can simply use your reference photo as a value study, right? You could turn it black and white. You could increase the contrast. You could do all these things just to see what you're really seeing in your picture minus the colors, especially if you wanted to bring in your own color story, your own color selections. But initially I did try to kind of mimic the colors that I showed you in the reference picture. I'm just playing, and I'm not even testing these paints out. So I'm kind of testing on the paper, which some people don't agree with. A lot of people say mix all your paints, be ready to go, plan it all out. I'm not a planner. I like to just kind of paint and go. I like to play with the colors, see how they mix on the paper. I do use my palette to mix, obviously. You see me, I have 3 palettes up there. I use them a lot. The reason why I don't show my colors and my palettes and my mixing process is because I feel that is something I want you to try on your own. I know it can be intimidating when you're just beginning, and sometimes it can be intimidating down the road, but I want you to explore that on your own instead of trying to mix with me. You can find plenty of people, don't worry, plenty of people that will walk you through every color mix, and you can mimic what they're making. But I feel like you're going to learn the most by doing it yourself. So yeah, a little bit of tough love, but I feel like it's probably the best route. So what I did, I got some base color down, and now I wanted to drop in some clouds. The picture from the reference, as you saw, has a lot of like cloudy, moody shapes. And so I was trying to do that. I'm not super successful, and I'm starting to realize these colors aren't working for me. My brush, the brush has too much water, so you'll see me taking my brush out of view, and I'm dabbing it off on my cloth. I like to use cloth towels, paper towels. I feel like tend to get too many like little fuzzy residues after a while, and you just go through them too fast. So I prefer cloth, reusable things. I'm much more into that kind of stuff than throw away each day. So I am just going to struggle through this for a little bit here. I'm using not a brush that I'm super comfortable with, but I was hoping it would help me get these loose clouds in the sky. I'm going to just keep trying I'm going to get smaller amounts of clouds with less water, with less pigment, and I'm going to keep trying to add them. As you saw the reference, it has a lot of clouds going on. It has a lot of little bits and pieces, and I still struggle. I do struggle, not still. I struggle with creating those and letting them flow and getting the right paper, water to ratio. And so I maybe acted prematurely there and should have just played a little bit more, but I was kind of over it for a sec. And so I just decided to do what I do when I feel that way. And sometimes I'll just take a dry, absolute 100% dry brush and kind of just sweep everything, smooth it all out. And that gives me opportunity to maybe start a little bit. Usually that means the paper is kind of dry. So when I'm adding right now, I probably should have dried first and then re-wet and then started again. So, it takes a lot of practice to learn these things. And even if we practice every day, we can still kind of err on the side of, oh, whoops, that was wrong, right? It happens all the time. And so I kind of got frustrated with this guy. And so I decided to just kind of, kind of reset. I think I needed a reset at that point because I wasn't feeling the clouds. And I was like, this isn't for me tonight. Maybe I could try again another time. Maybe not. Maybe it's just not my thing ever. Maybe these wispies sound more fun to me. And I did that time. And the free flowing, let them settle. So a lot of times with those clouds I was doing before, you do need to kind of let your clouds settle into the paper. I was being impatient and things weren't going how I wanted, so I just whooshed them aside. But often if you'll sit there and let the paint do its thing and the water do its thing, it can kind of mellow out, and they're less abrasive, right? They kind of melt into the background. And not melt isn't the right word, but kind of blend into the background. And so now I'm struggling again here. I'm taking this orange and I wanted to make some highlights in my clouds, and I wanted to try lots of different colors. My reference picture had a lot of different colors, and I was trying really hard to incorporate those and play and do my own thing while still taking stock of the reference, and just this back and forth. And sometimes I really have fun with it, and sometimes I can really roll with it and go with it and create fun things. This one I was really struggling with. I just have to be honest. I was really just, I don't know if I can blame it on the brushes, if I can blame it on hormones, I can blame it on myself, but we all just have those days and nights, and this was one of them for me. But I keep going, and I know some people don't, and some people say definitely step away, and that's fine too. We all have the ways we deal with things, right? And it's all fine for whatever you need at the time. And, as long as we're okay with what we're doing, and, it's not being terrible on our mental health, it's fine, right? Because I'm just going to push through, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to see what I can pull out of this. It's like, for me, it's like that give and take, and I like to see how much I can give and then take and give it back, and over. And this is definitely a piece of that. So here I even try to stick a sun in there. I don't know what I'm thinking, and you'll see me just be like, nope. And that's okay too. You can erase things. I'm using buff titanium to kind of blur things out, maybe bring some lightness. But of course, that's not necessarily going to work. What I should have done is probably just rinsed off the paper and maybe started new, or lifted or blotted, maybe. I don't know. Again, it's experimenting, it's playing, it's being curious, it's trying all these things and hoping that something's going to be like, aha. And I usually have aha moments much sooner than this. This was not really an aha piece. So for me, I don't paint from references except for, the once a week paint your style. It's just not my thing, and I'm trying to make it more my thing lately. And so I'm really struggling with incorporating it and kind of adapting to how to paint from a reference picture more often than once a week. And it's just really, really challenging for me. So I just gave up for the sky for a minute. I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm going to play with this water. I go back to referring to the reference, thinking that maybe I can do this water. I struggle with water as well. This whole video is just me struggling through. And I want you to know that it's okay that we all have these struggle days where nothing feels right and it all feels like it's not working, and nothing looks like it should. And again, this is why I probably don't prefer reference photos, because they set the expectation, the bar so high that for me, it just feels like if I don't hit that bar or those expectations, it feels like a failure. And that's something I need to get over. I need to accept that and move on. It's really hard for me though. And that's what I admire so much, when I see Madeline's videos and Madeline's stuff, is like she can get that simplified thing. And I think that's why you all appreciate it so much too, is she can just like simplify it and roll with it and go with it. Whereas look at me, I'm still struggling. What are we in? Almost 10 minutes in, and I'm just like struggling as hard as I can with this thing, trying to make something out of nothing, right? trying to create something that I'm happy with, that's something that I can be like, okay, I can get on board with this. So here I am again, just adding some more dioxazine purple in over some lighter purple and some corals and some pinks, and just playing with the colors. Ultimately, I wanted to mimic the sky-ish, and I didn't really do that much, but it was more about, at this point, was more of me exploring. And so down on this bottom half, I'm doing much more of a dry brush, obviously, right? I didn't pre-wet the paper. I'm leaving the white spaces. I decide I don't like them in the end. I do take them out. I mean, the top's all solid too. So it's just, again, a lot of give and take, right? I'm filling in those edges so that it kind of gets lighter in the middle here. I'm just keeping playing and playing and playing. I'm still insisting on using this brush that's not comfortable for me. So I probably should have like gone back to a Polina or a Tintoretto or something I'm really comfortable with. When you're painting new things like this, either a reference that you have not done before, or maybe you just like me, don't paint from references very often, don't change your other tools, right? Use the colors and the palettes that you're very, very much used to, that you're comfortable with, that you feel like you can mix colors from. And don't switch up brushes or paper, right? Keep those three things solid, the three things that you're most comfortable with: paint, paper, and brushes. Keep all those, comfortable, and then bring in the oddball like the reference picture or something, or a tutorial. But I feel like it's so much more beneficial to stick with your comfort tools and your supplies. And I kind of shot myself in the foot with this one, and so now I'm just trying to save anything, and I'm just coloring it in. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I am just done. I don't care about light anymore. And there we go. Got the dry brush out again. And I'm just going to sweep it all away, blending it all. See, at this point, I'm like, you know what? Nope, just blend the whole dang thing. And sometimes it can work. It's not necessarily that I'm giving up. I'm just kind of, I don't know exactly. I'm just trying to save myself, self-rescue, right? So now I'm going back in with my darkest color, and I'm going to try to add some water, ripples, waves, texture, movement, something. And yes, that is water. If anybody was curious, or if they're doubting themselves, it was supposed to be water, not a purple meadow, or I don't know what else it could have been. Anything really at this point, who knows? And often I will change things up. So water could easily turn into a meadow. See, there I'm going to go again, just sweeping away. So yeah, just sometimes that's just the only thing you can do besides wanting to walk away, right? And sometimes, again, if walking away is better for you, absolutely do it. So I did dry my piece completely. I decided that horizon just needed to be broken up, right? And maybe that would help it a little bit. So I'm just going to make some little mountains, some little hills across almost the entire horizon here, and fill those in. I'm using a Payne's Gray by Indigo, Payne's Gray by Daniel Smith. The other paints that I was using for the water in the sky are mostly Masha. I might have grabbed some Stay Kiwi colors there. I was just grabbing left and right. I can't honestly say what I grabbed. And that's the way I work most of the time. So another reason why I don't call out colors. I mix and grab so fast that I think it would frustrate you to even like hear the amount of colors I was grabbing. And so for me, that's the way I work. And it can be probably annoying to some, right? Because I want to know the colors. And if you are dying to know, like, what purple did I know? Or what purple did you use, Amber? I need to know that purple. I love that purple. Absolutely, please ask me. And I'll try my best to either remember or recall it or bring it back to memory. Like that pink in there, I can't tell you what that pink is in the sky, that really bright. Oh, you know what? It might be Masha's Quin Magenta or Quin something. I think. So again, I can try to pull it from you. Okay, so this brush I'm using, this is a Skoda brush. When I did that, took out all my brushes of my cup that I wasn't using, that amount I took out, that was one that I almost took out. But ends up, this sucker is a great tree brush. I was like, what? So the other night I painted 50 trees with I don't know, about 30 different brushes, just to test out the brushes and either get them out of my cup or, store them somewhere else. So I ended up getting a bunch out. So anybody that said 0 was wrong. Nobody guessed the number. I was kind of like, oh, nobody even guessed. A few people guessed, but not a lot. I keep looking outside. I see shadows, and I swear like I see snow on the ground, but I feel like I'm wrong. It might be a weird reflection. As soon as I'm done recording this, I'm going to go look, because it looks like snow out there. It's supposed to get very, very cold this weekend. Okay, so focus, Amber. See, squirrel. So this brush, it's this very long-haired brush. It's just bizarre. So try all your brushes because you just never know which one is going to work for which day. Like I could go tomorrow and try that brush and get nothing from it, right? I couldn't even draw a straight line with that brush. The hairs were so wonky. I want to say Madeline has this brush too, and we were both like, what is this brush? It has like erratic, like its hairs just go everywhere. It's the weirdest brush, but for some reason it was really working for me in these trees. And I don't know, I was trying to save it with trees and bring in, of course, a Pacific Northwest sort of a vibe, because why not, right? When in doubt, I throw in some trees and hope for the best. I really, really do. I feel like I do that all the time. And sometimes I bet you're sick of it, but I just feel that that's kind of my go-to. We all have our comfort thing, and I think adding the trees is my comfort. And I could see this kind of maybe helping. I'm not sure if my paper is completely tilted or if my horizon is just off, like insane. It might be off, going downhill to the right. Could be, could be. And so my idea at this point is just to kind of finish it and say that I did it. And I feel like I do need to come back to this reference at some point, maybe in a different frame of mind, different brushes, maybe different paints. I don't know, mix it up. Maybe actually take the time to swatch some paints out and find what colors I am happy with. I'm not particularly, wow, my voice got really high there. I'm sorry. I'm not particularly unhappy with the colors in this picture at this moment right now. At the time, I was like, I don't know. I do like the orange. I like the pinks. I like the purples. I like the gradient. I guess the quote unquote water might be a little dull, but I think the sky is so intense that maybe it makes up for it. I don't know. But I did decide I definitely wanted dark trees in the foreground, along with that horizon to kind of tie all that in. And then I decided I wanted something fun. I have been on a shimmer kick, if you haven't noticed, and I decided that I for sure wanted to use Laura's color called Madness. It's Cosmic Creations. She's one of my top favorite paint makers. She makes mattes and shimmers, and along with Masha, her and Stacy and Brooke and Carrie and who else? I'm missing somebody. Darn it. Oh, now I'm going to be sad that I missed them. But anyway, I love handmade paints. And if you didn't know that, well, you do now because I love them. I think that you can just get fun colors. Okay, I am using my, what is this, Shimoni liner brush that I won from the 25 Days of Christmas to make my birds. I decided to pull that out and start practicing with that brush. It's also a liner, but it's very, very thin. So here's my collection of Laura's shimmers. And again, I knew that I wanted the Madness. I'm going to dry it real quick to make sure everything's dry. And as I dried, I realized I must have used less water. Do you see that tree on the left? Must have used less water than I had before. So I'm going to go back and try to kind of fill it in. It doesn't always work out exactly. You can kind of see the light lines after. I'm not a huge fan, but you got to do what you got to do at the time, right? If I left it, it did look a little funny. So I decided to darken it out before I add my fireflies, which I'm super excited about. I love adding a little bit of shimmer like this. And does it make sense? No, not exactly, but I like it anyway. So when I do it, and it's not, if you're not a fan, then just don't do it. Just skip it, leave it. You could always add a moon and a star to the skies, and I think that would be fine as well. Do what you like, right? You can alter things however you want it. You don't even have to do any of anything, right? You do exactly what you want, how you want it, and have fun with it. Okay, so you also want to experiment with different brushes, what works best for you when you splatter. This round works pretty well. I believe it's a round 4, but it's more like a mop than a round because it does have a bit of a belly on it. So again, you want to experiment, and you can experiment with how heavily you tap it, how gently, how much water to paint ratio. There's a lot of experimenting with splattering, and I think that you can I think that you should test it out on other paper before you do it, and see what you like and what you prefer. I've even used liners to splatter. This color was so pretty. I wanted to try to show you. Do you see that glow? It is such a neat color. It's like magical. It's super magical. And I'm, in love with it. So I wanted to give you a close up. And so now that's going to be it. I'm going to finally be like, nope, that's it. I wanted to show off all my collection. I've dropped it a few times, so I've had to rearrange a few times. I have ghosts and shimmers and glimmers and duos and shifters and all sorts of fun in there. Laura's shifting shimmery colors are just amazing, and I love them. So, all right, time of test, truth, time of truth, whatever you want to call it. Take the dang tape off. I do reuse my tape, so I'm more gentle than some, so I'm setting off to the side to reuse it for next time, because you can at least get 2 to 3 times use set of tape. And often you'll actually want to let this dry on your plexiglass. I don't, because I'm always in a hurry, but see how pretty that madness is? It's just like the shimmery firefly glow. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you even learned just a little tiny bit or inspired to do something of your own.